Today we're at Fyne Court on the Quantock Hills, a place that's thought to have inspired one of the greatest creations in fiction. Frankenstein. You want to find out why? You need to come for a walk with me then.
Fyne Court can be found in the small village of Broomfield, just a short drive from Taunton. And it's free for you to walk your family and your dogs around, but the National Trust, which owns the place, does ask for a few quid to park your car. Now, back in the 18th century, Fyne Court was a grand Georgian mansion. But sadly, for reasons why I'll tell you later, this is how it looks today. But even in moody weather like we've got at the moment, it's still a lovely place to sit, have a coffee and read a book. Now, for more than 300 years, Fyne Court was home to the Crosse family, the most famous of which was the scientist and poet Andrew Crosse. Now, the reason for his fame was because of his obsession with electricity, to the point he was actually known as the Thunder and Lightning Man by his neighbours on the Quantock Hills. Now, Andrew got that nickname purely because of his experiments with electricity, and one of the main things that he would do is he would lay copper wiring about a third of a mile around this estate. And copper wiring, of course, very good conductor of electricity, and what it would be for periods of fog, heavy rain, thunder and lightning, a bit like what we're experiencing today actually. The ideal conditions, wouldn't it? And that copper wire would be connected to equipment that was back in the main house, back in Fyne Court. The conductors, they would flash, they would spark, a signal that magic was happening. However, the experiment that changed it all for Andrew Crosse was when he tried to generate crystals. He found that mites, very small mites, began appearing from a single piece of volcanic stone that he had placed in acid and passed an electric current through. Now, these mites couldn't be identified, even by the Natural History Museum. And after repeating the experiment and getting the same results, Andrew Crosse informed a local newspaper editor who published his findings without asking for permission. And as a result, many people accused Andrew Crosse of trying to play God and create life. Well, after this remarkable experiment took place, Andrew Crosse packed his bags and went to London to give lectures on his findings. And two people, it's thought, that turned up for his lectures were Mary Shelley and her husband Percy. And not long after, 1818, Frankenstein, the novel, was published. And it is thought that those lectures that Mary Shelley is reputed to have been sitting in on is what was the inspiration for Frankenstein's monster.
It's alive! Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now, it wasn't just science that interested Andrew Crosse. He had a deep love for the Quantock Hills and the arts as well, especially poetry. And it's thought among the famous visitors to Fyne Court were the poets Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Wordsworth, who had residencies nearby. Now, Andrew Crosse passed away in 1855 in exactly the same bed as he was born in 71 years earlier. And some might say, because his life was riddled with controversy, that actually his legacy is one that is rather sad. But I think the opposite, because less than 30 years later, just down the road in 1881, the town of Taunton became the first town to be permanently lit by electric street lighting. Now, although that's not directly linked to Andrew Crosse, it's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? But what of Fyne Court? Well, it was passed on through future generations of the Crosse family, until sadly, in 1894, the house was devastated by a fire, which was caused by an unwatched candle heating some curling tongs. Most of the house was destroyed, apart from the music room and the library, where Andrew Crosse once conducted those famous experiments. And eventually, back in the 70s, the house, its management, was handed over to the National Trust, who keep it in pretty good nick, if I may say. Why don't you come up here and discover it for yourself? It's peaceful, it's beautiful, and it's historic. It's Fyne Court. Thanks for coming with me, guys. I'll see you soon.